what appears to be a strong show of support for Palestinians, several African states are holding an event to raise awareness about the atrocities of the Israelis. Kenya and South Africa will hold an event named the Israeli Apartheid Week. The event is meant to highlight both Israel's apartheid policies against the Palestinians, as well as highlighting Israel's discriminatory policies against African asylum seekers. It will also celebrate the historic support and solidarity that African liberation struggles and countries received from the Palestinian people over the past decades. Organizers say the event will specifically be meant to bring into the spotlight Israel's warming relations with Rwanda, Uganda, and particularly Kenya. They say African states should be aware of the discriminatory policies of the Israelis toward their citizens, which in many ways mirror the same policies adopted towards the Palestinians.
It really rests in the hands of the United States. If the United States would end its support of Israel, and it should by its own laws. The United States is violating the Arms Export Act and other laws that prohibit giving money to a country that uses the money to oppress another people. And if the United States abided by its own laws, Israel could not really maintain the occupation, and things would have to change drastically, and the Israeli government would have to become much more amenable to a fair and just resolution to this problem.
The holding of the Israeli Apartheid Week in Africa highlights how the world is increasingly becoming aware about the hostile policies of the Israelis against Palestinians. The international community is specifically growing more critical of Israel's military occupation of Palestinian lands, as well as the apartheid policies of the Israelis toward Palestinians. This is specifically expected to draw a stronger sense of sympathy from countries like South Africa, which itself was a victim of apartheid for many years.
I see the Israel-Palestine tragedy as an archetype of suffering. It contains all the elements that lead people to create worlds of suffering for themselves and for others. It includes ignorance, delusion, selfishness, narcissism, and clinging to these tribal identities without recognizing that we're really all one people, and that all of these ideas that you're a Muslim, a Christian, a Jew, an atheist, an American, a Palestinian, an Israeli, we're all of those things. You know, all of those things they come after they are not, what is prior to all of those things is our humanity. We are all human beings before we are any of those labels. And people have to start understanding that they need to gain some psychological perspective on this issue.
Criticisms are now growing among Arab media that the Israelis have already blocked all paths to peace with Palestinians. They specifically blamed the Israeli security apparatus for adopting a hawkish agenda against the Palestinians, an agenda meant to send a message to the Palestinians that coexistence is never possible. Many blame the inaction of the international organizations like the United Nations for emboldening the Israelis to continue their atrocities against Palestinians.
As far as the immediate future, I do not see anything improving for the Palestinians in the immediate future. It's possible that, a few years from now, 5-10 years from now, the Israeli government may implode, that the Israeli citizenry may start to get disgusted with the corruption and the what I call fascist behavior of the leadership, and maybe demand change. But I don't see that the government of Israel, even if it became the Labor Party or even Meretz, would really make a real peace with the Palestinian people, because by the time that a left-wing government could even gain power in Israel, Israel will have consolidated so much of the West Bank that it will take a huge and major effort to convince and possibly move settlers from the West Bank so that there can be a contiguous Palestinian state.
Right now with Israel that we ever had.
There are other powerful parties that share responsibility for the sufferings of the Palestinians. Most importantly, the United States, under the leadership of Donald Trump. It was a climax of support for the Israelis when Trump declared Jerusalem al-Quds as the capital of Israel. This triggered a fresh wave of violence, and more is expected to come when the U.S. moves towards the day when it officially transfers its embassy to the Holy City.